From matter what matters most is what unfolds. The first no. It begins before memory, before language knows its form. A child says no for the first time. Not in anger, not in defiance, but because something inside wants to exist. A small hand, a breath of morning, a whisper that says, I am here. I have a will. That no is not rebellion, it's recognition. The first boundary life ever draws around itself. A soft wall to protect what is tender. A quiet pulse of truth in its purest shape. Nature intended it so. Because before we learn to say yes, we must know where no begins, or every yes we give will mean nothing. For a moment, the sunlight spills across the floor, and your shadow moves with it. Uncertain, but unbroken, the world feels safe enough to let you be. 2. The disappearing no. Then the world begins to teach, not cruelly but consistently, at home first. A father frowns when you say no. A mother sighs when you refuse. Love starts to sound like approval. Peace starts to feel like obedience. We begin to trade truth for belonging. Smiles when we don't feel them. Nods when our hearts quietly shake. Fear teaches faster than love ever could. Fear of anger, fear of disappointing, fear of being left behind. Each time you silence that small voice inside, each time you say yes when you mean no, a thin layer of yourself dissolves, and adulthood arrives. You say yes to things your body resists. Yes to people who drain you. Yes at work when your shoulders ache from holding too much. Yes in love when silence would have been more honest. You tell yourself, it's kindness, it's patience, it's being good. But deep down you know, it's fear, disguised as virtue. It is when authenticity lost. The moment we begin to betray truth to preserve connection. Because once, long ago, you learned that love was conditional, that acceptance must be earned. So you bend, shapeshift into what others need, shrink the edges of your being until your no becomes a ghost. Still there, but silent. And somewhere along the way, you mistake compliance for peace and people-pleasing for love. But peace built on self-abandonment isn't peace, it's erosion. A quiet pain that smiles on the surface while wearing you thin from within. 3. When the body says no. The mind can lie, the mouth can smile, but the body never does. It remembers every stolen no, every yes that hollowed your chest, every compromise that pulled you away from yourself. At first it whispers, a stiffness in your neck, a tiredness behind your eyes, a fatigue that sleep cannot touch. Ignore it, and it grows louder. Your breath shortens, your stomach tightens. The ache becomes familiar until one day it blooms into illness. The body starts to protect what you will not. It slows you down, forces you to rest, speaks in fever, in pain, in silence. Not as punishment, but as protection. A boundary drawn in flesh when words have failed. A cry that says, I cannot live against myself any longer. It reminds us when we don't know how to say no, the body says it for us. Healing begins not with another yes, but with listening to the language of your own bones, to the pulse beneath the exhaustion. Because the body, unlike the mind, will always tell the truth. 4. The return of no. And then quietly you begin to remember the cost of every unspoken no, the weight of every false yes. The nights you smiled through discomfort, just to be loved. It starts as a flicker, a small rebellion inside the chest, a whisper that says, what if love didn't require losing myself? You begin to notice, not to judge, but to understand. When did I say yes? When I meant no? What was I afraid of losing? What belief kept me small? This noticing, this gentle curiosity, is the voice of your authentic self returning. Every time you hear it, it grows stronger. So you start small. A no to unnecessary fatigue. A no to a conversation that drains. A no to expectations that stretch you thin. And when guilt comes, you let it. Because guilt is just an old reflex, a loyal but foolish friend that once tried to keep you safe. You thank it and choose yourself anyway. It is said, when faced with guilt or resentment, choose guilt. Because guilt fades, but resentment poisons. And each time you choose guilt over resentment, you teach your body it is safe to be honest again. Slowly the guilt softens, the fear dissolves, and peace, real peace, begins to arrive. Not the peace of pleasing, but the peace of presence, the peace of being whole. Because no was never rejection. It was remembrance, a homecoming. And when you finally say it with softness, with love, you feel it. Not fear, not guilt, but freedom. Freedom that tastes like warm light on a cold morning, like breath that no longer hides. A no that has come home, and with it, the quiet beginning of a life that is truly yours. Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your story. And if this sort of space made you pause for a moment, I'd truly appreciate it if you hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so we can meet again in the next quiet moment.